On our menu for tonight, for entree, we're going to be reviewing Draft Rugby Round 6. For main course, we're going to be previewing Round 7 coming up. And for dessert, we're going to wind back the clock and take a look at Round 2 of Draft Rugby and have a look through those fixtures, those fantasy fixtures, and see if there's any insights that we can take out of that going into the repeat fixtures this weekend. So just a look at the fantasy scores and whatnot. But let's get into it. For entree, the buys this week were the Blues and the Force, and the first fixture of the week was the Rebels and the Brumbies, and it went as expected, did it not, boys?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that. Look, this was a great matchup. We saw a bunch of guys return. Campbell Magnay, James Tuttle, after numerous Achilles repairs. He's actually been out for, I think it was 800 plus days. Ryan Lowrens from an ankle injury. But yeah, the Rebels got this done 30-12 with a pretty comprehensive win. There were a few injuries, which is sad to see. Scotty Seo, we think he did his ankle. Jordan Uelisi, he got concussed. Still had a very good performance. Rob Valentini, he limped off, came off earlier than we expected, and we didn't think it was a sub that was going to happen. Rob Leota, he had a leg injury. Tom Ross, he got knocked out pretty badly.
Yeah, and just to clarify as well, CO and Valentini, they haven't said anything about those injuries, but they obviously got subbed and looked worse for wear.
Yeah, you didn't expect Rob Valentini to come off for Miller. You'd think that would be a straight trade with a sub with Cusack normally.
Yeah.
But look, it was a game of very different sides from what we were expecting. The Brumbies have shown weaknesses in the past, but they just blew every opportunity they had. They didn't know how to capitalise in this wet weather footy, whereas the Rebels, I think they did really, really well. They changed up their 10-12 pairing with Matt Tamula coming in at inside centre and Andrew Deegan at 10. Both of them, I think, controlled the game really, really well. They utilised the kick, plug it into the corners, and I think that it was just the control of the two of them for me was much better than we've seen with Meeks at 12. I'm a big Meeks fan, but I just think it worked really, really well in wet weather footy. How did you guys see that?
Yeah, look, I think it's saying the Brumbies did have an absolute shocker, but I think it's full credit to the Rebels. I mean, they just came out absolutely on fire, and they didn't take their foot off the gas. It was like they were playing a test match. The intensity with which they started the game and carried through the whole way was unbelievable. I think the Brumbies were just stunned, didn't know what to do.
Yeah, it was one thing that really I did not see coming was Reece Hodge at 15 was all over Tom Banks in attack, in defence. He had his number at every single opportunity that those two matched up, sneaking a try, shutting him down defensively as well.
I think we've all said, I've always said Reece Hodge is a 15. I think some people think he's a 13. I think we can all agree he's probably not a winger. But 15, I think, is just his down and out position. He just never gets to play it.
He had a good game, but I think the big thing was the emergence of Cameron Orr and Trevor Hazea and the return of Isi Nasserani has just really turned around the Rebels pack. And they're starting to show the form that everyone has been saying for the last 3 or 4 years that they should be able to produce on a regular basis.
What did you think of that new flanker, Billy Meeks?
Doesn't know how to scrum.
No. That's a horrifying thing to see.
He had about the same amount of technique you have on the side of a scrum there, to be honest. I couldn't tell much of a difference. He's got the same head.
He had I'll take that as a compliment. He's a beautiful man. But no, he was very lost out there. Other than that, look, it was a really, really good game. The Rebel set piece was very solid. They won a few scrums. They pinched quite a few lineouts. But they also had 63% of possession and 65% of territory. They had 15 penalties against them compared to the Brumbies 13 plus the yellow card. They looked more solid in attack, 302 to 215 run meters. They had 17 to 11 tackle busts. Pretty similar on a lot of the other stats. But the one thing that did go the Brumbies' way, they were still willing to throw the ball around, 5 offloads to 1. But it was a game that I think really the Rebels took control. They had 13 of 15 of their lineouts compared to the Brumbies 16 of 21. So it's 76%. They lost 5 of their own lineouts, which is something I think recently we're only really seeing the Reds do. 5 lineouts lost is pretty bad. The Rebels, they did actually lose quite a few of their own scrums, 8 of 12, where the Brumbies, although they were on the back foot on occasion, they won 100% of theirs. Fantasy man of the match was Jordan Uelisi with 48 points. He had a concussion. He had 8 carries for 24 metres. He had 1 try, 2 tackle busts, a line break, and 5 tackles. No one else broke the 45 points for the Rebels, where Pete Samu did for the Brumbies with 45 points.
And I have to say, I just think Mark Timu is playing himself into a Wallabies jersey at 10 or 12. Doesn't matter, but he's got to be there.
I think it's a done deal.
I think
so. Look, I've always seen him as a 12, but both Dave Rennie and himself have said he wants to be 10, and they think he's a 10. James O'Connor and him, I don't think fit together in any other way other than Tamura at 12 for me. I think that's the better combination of the two. If there's a young 10, then I'd say Tamura being the 12. But there's a few combinations. Always interesting to see how it goes.
True. I just love to see a 10 out there that hits people. But very good. All right, let's move on to the next game. We had the Hurricanes and the Chefs. Harry, do you want to take us through returning injuries and this game?
For sure, mate. So the Hurricanes continued their good reign of form, their rich vein of form, 31-18 over the Chiefs. You've left me in the lurch here on the tries. Anyone know how many tries in this game? 5 tries to 2. Thanks for helping. So very good from the Hurricanes. Pretty dominant all the way through the game, I thought, on this one. You had Luke Jacobson coming back from his hand fracture. I didn't expect to see him.
Surprise return, yeah.
Yeah, at all through Aotearoa, and that really hurt me, having a Boucher just kind of anchoring my forward pack. So really, really excited to see him play, but disappointing for fantasy managers, no doubt. You also had Peter Umaga Jensen, who didn't miss a game because of the bye, but he suffered a concussion a couple of weeks ago and managed to make it back. And Tyrell Lomax came back from being pulled pre-game. He missed 1 game a couple of weeks ago. Dane Coles returned from his back injury, and Kane Leao Pepe was probably the big return for this one as well. He came back from a big hip operation, a labral repair, and a shaving down of the bone in his hip. It's a pretty big op, and it's a pretty tough one to come back from. So really, really good news for him. He's a player I really enjoyed watching last year. So came off the bench and, didn't have a huge game, but awesome to see him back in the mix.
He did that in the World Cup last year, didn't he? He was playing for Samoa. So
yeah, that's right. So it's a pretty grim injury. So hopefully he can prolong his career, but it's not a great outlook, to be honest with you. I won't be picking up in fantasy, put it that way. Injured, you got Sam Cane, took a huge knock. Obviously, there was a lot of concern about him. It looked like a neck injury originally. Ends up that it was just a concussion. He sounded like he was going pretty well after the game. So, obviously some concern around the All Blacks captain, but went off pretty early and by all accounts just going to go through the head injury assessment now and should be okay. And Kini Naholo as well got his debut. We were all waiting to see it. And I think before we even saw him touch the ball or make a tackle, he suffered a leg injury and went off. So there was no more detail about exactly what he did there, though.
And he was going to get a full half as well. I think he came on right at the start of the second. So
yeah.
Devo.
In this one, the Hurricanes controlled the game completely, I think, pretty much from start to finish. It was the usual suspects from then. Jordy Barrett was absolutely fantastic in everything he did. Artie Sevilla, again, looked very threatening, had a couple of big runs through the middle.
What a dummy.
Yeah, that's right. The huge dummy that sold no one. Duplessis, Karifi was into absolutely everything. And despite making a few errors here and there, he's obviously an absolute energizer bunny for them. Still don't like his head in terms of how he goes about the game, though. And Wes Houston, I think, has definitely made the Hurricanes question why they didn't start him earlier on in the season. I think he's been absolutely electric for them for a couple of weeks in a row.
Yeah, I think he's a brilliant player, and he's shown he can. He's got a lot of strings to his bow. It's a really interesting thing that they've kept on the bench so long.
He's definitely got the gas, doesn't he? But look, you were going to get to him, but the man I was excited about, Peter Umaga-Jensen, he's who I wanted to pick up first at trade night this week.
He hurt me badly.
He was immense.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was awesome, and he just keeps going from strength to strength. I think all of us had our doubts about him when he started getting a few runs earlier this season. But partnering with Vince Asso, I think anything could have happened, and it was great to see him really excel there as well. The Chiefs' attack just absolutely struggled to get anything going. They looked a little bit lost, to be honest with you. I don't even know who was their captain, to be honest, after Sam Cane went off. I wasn't sure who kind of took over there. They didn't really have any obvious leaders. Nathan Harris still been in the casualty ward as well. So, I mean, there was definitely a lack of leadership for them.
Yeah.
And then, look, I thought as the game went on, it became more and more obvious how stressed the Chiefs were about their performance and their inability to win a game. They had a throw to nobody that went over the sideline from Peter Kasawakula. There was another one earlier in the game as well. Then you had Quintapaya dropping a bomb from Geordie Barrett. I know it was a torp and it would have been hard to pick up, but, still no chasers. He should have been able to take it, and he just looked completely uncomfortable the whole time. On the flip side, Jamie Booth came on, was absolutely electric as well. He keeps going from strength to strength and just deserves to play for a team where he starts every week, to be honest with you. I think the Blues would absolutely love him, although Finlay Christie would have something to say about that as well. And then my last point for this one was D-Mac. I thought just looks like he's lost a little bit of his footwork and pace off the mark. I mean, I'm still going to pick him first in every single competition in fantasy footy, but just a little bit worrying. His pace and ability to break the tackle is not quite as good as it was.
Yeah, I'm wondering a little bit if it's the way they're playing. The whole attack of the Chiefs have seemed a little bit rudderless. They haven't seemed to have as many options available to them. So I don't know if it's just him or if it's more of that team's attack, and maybe they're trying to make a few changes and it hasn't come off yet.
He's still carrying, though. He still has the ability to beat players one-on-one. The opportunity's there. He's just not doing it. But look, Moving on, the Hurricanes had 58% of possession, 57% of the territory. They made 25 tackle busts compared to 14, 10 line breaks compared to 5. They're pretty dominant in most areas. I thought really telling was the tackle success for the Chiefs was 73%, which was way, way down. I don't think I can remember ever seeing them that low. And both teams kicked 3 from 5. I think all of the New Zealand players at the moment are struggling with their goal kicking. Dane Coles was the fantasy man of the match, 59 points, 5 carries for 20 metres, 1 try, 3 tackle busts, an offload, and 5 tackles. Again, very, very good from him. You had Peter Umaga-Jensen with 51, TJ Perinara 47, Geordie Barrett 45, and Sean Wainui, the lone good score from the Chiefs with 45.
Very good, yes. Who would have thunk it? The Chiefs, 0 wins. They're the Nelson Dale of the competition of the Super Rugby Aotearoa. So it's
except they've had wins. And I beat Harry. I'll beat you.
All right. Well, let's move on to the Waratahs and the Reds. Another game that perhaps didn't go anything like how we thought it was going to. I think the odds, I was sitting at the pub with a few of the boys, and the odds were $11 for the Waratahs to win 13+. And I don't think anyone took those. So
Or were they 30+?
30+? I'm not sure yet. I don't know. You'd have to tell me. But anyway, in this one, returning, we had Lalakai Foketi for the Tars coming back from a hamstring injury. I didn't see that much of him. I noted his defence was very good. He just seemed to always be in the right place at the right time. But I don't know how much he did in offence. Angus Bell came back on the bench, from the bench from his back injury. And injuries in this one, Jock Campbell he got injured last week, but was named to start, pulled pre-game. That saw Bryce Hegarty go in to start at 15. And Jordan Bataya, he unfortunately lost his father earlier on during the week, and so he didn't fly down for the game, understandably. Not coming back from injury, but Harry's put in bold for me. Player I'm very excited about, Zane Nongor, the Gore. He did come off the bench.
Tom and Thor 2.0.
That's it, the mini Thor. Just when you thought you'd seen it all, the Reds rolling out another one. So I'm very excited about him.
Can I just point out one thing? Did you guys know he was at 170 kilos at one point within the last few years?
I did
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
Was that an
170.
off season between highlight reels or what?
He was playing at 170 kilos.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ! All right.
Well, down to
Well,
135 or something now, though, mind you.
he's
Yeah.
only
19, I think 19 years of age.
he's
Yeah.
only grown in my estimation with that new information that's come to light.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Tars. So look, I mean, I think we all called it last week. We said the Reds are going to win this. Can't really see any way the Tars can pick back up their season. But lo and behold, the saving grace, ladies and gentlemen, Rob Simmons did not take the field, and it all came good. What can I say? Coincidence? I think not. Anything? No comments from you? Great. All right. Well, anyway, the Waratahs, they just came out like absolute lightning, kind of like the Rebels, just all guns blazing in attack, throwing the ball around, and the skills just stuck. They were throwing these ridiculous passes out in front, everything at pace, and it's like they covered their hands in glue or something. I think one of the first tries, there's this ball, a good 5 meters in front of Tommy Horton, just at full pace, just throws a mid out there. Somehow it lands in it, and then he throws a ripper pass, and they spread it through the hands for I think that could have been the Alex Newsom Rugby League poster finish in the corner. I mean, where did that come from?
Mate, it was a good finish, definitely. He did another one a little bit later on in the match that, makes you think maybe he isn't that terrible at running anything other than running dead straight, which is normally what he does.
We liked him at the Western Force. It's just since he's gone to the Tars, he sucked.
That's true. I did actually like him back then. I've now trashed on him progressively every week. But yeah, it was amazing. Look, I mean, this was my fantasy win this week, really. I bagged 5 tries, almost 6 if Newsom had come home with that one. But and 3 of those, Jake Gordon. Holy dooly. Talk about coming back and making an impact. 97 points, our fantasy man of the round.
The guy's a freak.
That's huge. He just, I think I'd said it the last 2 weeks. What he does is he's very dangerous around the rucks, keeps everyone accountable, creates space, but it's also those, I called it those all-black halfbacks finishing supporting lines. He's just always there in the right place, and that's why he bagged himself a few tries. So fantastic work from him. Who else had a really big one for the Tars? I mean, pretty much all of the backs. James Ram, he looked really good. Jack Maddox back into form. He'd had a few pretty bad games. But the Reds, I haven't even mentioned them yet. I don't know what they were doing. I don't think they knew what they were doing. They came in for a fly-in, fly-out game, so they only flew down in the afternoon. And don't know, did they all get, plane sick? What do you call plane sick?
Not that.
Not seasick. I couldn't think of what it's called. Anyway, they just they did not turn up to play, and I mean the Tars were all over them in every aspect of the game: lineouts, scrums, just incredible. Halftime, 38-0, 5 tries. And it started bucketing down in the second, and it did certainly slowed up progress. But full-time score 45-12, kind of one consolation for the Reds. But Tars 59% possession, 66 territory. Penalties, Waratahs 12, Reds 18, and a yellow card. So bit of ill discipline all around, but only 2 in the first half to the Tars. Sorry, that was the big point there. In terms of the stats, look, pretty much just all favoured the Tars.
Yep.
As expected.
No surprises.
Nothing really stands out. Set piece, as I said, they were pretty ahead of them. Yeah, the Reds lost 5 lineouts. Huge. But fantasy points.
Out one thing while you're umming and ahhing through the stats. Damon Murphy, how rubbish was he?
He was.
He doesn't even know the line-out laws. Like, I don't think any of the umpires, the refs, know the
umpires.
Yeah, they're not even refs anymore to me.
What was the line-out call? What was wrong with the line-out call?
There was a Waratahs player that jumped from outside of the field to play. I think it was Newsom. Tried to catch it and carry it back into play, but dropped it. And then they called play on. Whereas in New Zealand the week before, Sevu Reece tried the same thing. Same thing happened, dropped the ball, and they called it up and said, no, you have to actually catch it if you're going to jump out from the field of play. Whereas the person before that, I think it was George Bridge, had caught it and carried it in. That's why they allowed it to play on. Maybe
Harry,
couldn't.
I know we're getting distracted a little bit off topic here, but is that trophy attached to your hip? Because when you move, it's definitely moving with you. That's not on the table, is it, mate?
That actually is spectacular. Yeah. Look, if you haven't already, you have to get after us on YouTube and subscribe and check out the videos there. You can see our fantastic Zoom backgrounds as well. Nelson's "This Is Fine" meme background that describes his season. Harry like Nelson said, you won't see him without a trophy touching his body at some point, some way.
I said I'll change my background from the trophy as soon as I don't win a fantasy football season.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll see. Well, you got to win this one, mate. You're not there yet. All right. Well, yeah. Well, let's get back on the right road. Fantasy points in this one. Jake Gordon already said it. Yeah, 97 points, 3 tries, 4 line breaks, 3 tackle busts, and 50 passes. Jack Dempsey, 71 points. Huge game from him. Carmichael Hunt, 45. And for the Reds, James O'Connor with 44. The only one really doing anything. Even though we try to talk about lots of points, we could talk about the players that got none, such as Harry Wilson. How did he only get 1 point? One of the top back rowers. Harry, what was he doing wrong?
Minus 26 points on penalties and turnovers. That's how.
There you go. Harry definitely knows.
It was 26?
No.
23. It was 15 on penalties and 8 on losing turnovers.
And 3 on scrums.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, let's move along to the next game, to the new Kiwi Super Rugby Aotearoa as well. Let's move on to the Crusaders and the Highlanders. Nelson, do you want to take us through this one?
Yeah, look, I think this is one that everyone that wasn't a Crusaders fan was going for the Highlanders here because unlike the Super Rugby Australia or Super Rugby AU, it was actually, if the Crusaders won here, it doesn't matter what happens next week. That wrapped it up. Super Rugby Australia or Super Rugby AU, it's going to be a fight to the very end with a grand final and a semi-final, second versus third. It was sad to see the Crusaders win this one. The Highlanders came out firing. They had a very solid start, but the Crusaders ended up taking it 4 tries to 3, 32 points to 22. Braden Ennell made his return from being stomped on the foot. Joe Moody returned after his family bereavement. Vetu Douglas, MCL.
Not for very long, though. Joe Moody.
Yeah.
He was only on for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, before he got injured again. And he actually had a neck injury. Vetu Douglas returned after an MCL. Nani Punavai returned after a concussion. On those neck injuries, there was a serious concussion or neck injury to Ollie Jaeger. He was out cold. He got knocked out by Seo Tompkinson off the ball. Look, a few angles looked like Seo Tompkinson was trying to kill him. One angle actually looked like Seo Tompkinson wasn't watching him until the last second. He saw a guy coming from the side and he braced himself and stepped into it. And that angle really changed my mind, thinking he wasn't actually just trying to kill a bloke. I think he just braced himself in that second.
Just in that short excerpt there, you can see, you can tell, first of all, that Nelson had Seo Tompkinson in his fantasy team, but also just like the stages of denial. Do you know what I mean? Like Nelson just working his way through the angles on TV. How many times did you rewind that, Nelson?
No, mate, look, I think he deserved a yellow no matter what. He knocked a guy out off the ball and he definitely braced himself. But I don't think there was bad intent there. I think he really was caught off guard by a guy jumping in at the side.
His problem is that his shoulders are made of steel.
Yeah, and he's also the hitman.
He made a fantastic hit on Jack Goodhue. Absolutely smashed him.
Yeah, huge. Sold out match, Orange Theory Stadium, 18,000 people. Great to see those numbers and no one wearing masks because it's been 100 days straight without any cases in New Zealand, which is great to see. Look, the Highlanders just came out wanting it more. They were on fire in every aspect of the game. But as everybody knows, the Crusaders know how to put points on in those last 20 minutes. They score more than anybody else. The Highlanders, I'm pretty sure, score less than anybody else in those last 20 minutes. There was a few tries. The Crusaders went bang, bang, scored double to George Bridge. Not only started shattering the hearts of the Highlanders, but also of my fantasy team because he was against me. Scored 2 tries in 3 minutes. Richie Moe was just an absolute freak in this one. Really, really good match by Josh Ioane as well. He's showing he is world class. I mean, if he was on the other side in the Crusaders, there'd be a lot more talk about him as well, but he's definitely world class. John Nareki looks so good in offence, but pretty average in defence. Boys, how good was it to see Shannon Frizzell also going hard again?
Oh, mate, loved it. He was into everything and everyone. It's like he couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah, he's such a good player, and we love to see him going hard. I also love to see him when he scored that try, when he ran that up. I think it was over his line, off a line out off a set piece. He slammed that ball down. It was a slam dunk try. He didn't just put that ball down. It had a lot of heart behind that one, I think. Also, something I really want to highlight is I think a guy that we've talked down maybe a little bit, Josh Mackay. He just put in one of the best defensive efforts to shut down a try. The Crusaders, almost everyone in their team touched it, looked brilliant. Then Bryn Hall, all he had to do was run it in and score. And Josh Mackay came from nowhere and just broke Bryn Hall's heart. Made everyone realise that Bryn Hall is the one guy that's not superhuman in that Crusaders back line at the very least.
Also set up, I'm pretty sure, the first try with a huge flat left to right. So he cops a lot of rubbish.
He's a good player.
Very well.
He's a good player, but do you think he's Mwanga, he's Enoa, he's Goodhue, or is anywhere near any of those guys? Sevu Reece, is he anything like those? David Havili?
George Power, Michael Alatoa, Mitchell Dunche, Quinton Strange.
I said backs.
Yeah, I think in summary, what Nelson's trying to say is, imagine if the Crusaders had TJ Perenara or Aaron Smith. Mainly Aaron Smith. just imagine.
Yeah. Harry, if you're going to say that there's backs that aren't as good as him, you might want to list a back.
Yep.
Very good.
Cool. Match stats here, they were very similar on possession and territory, very similar on penalties, except a yellow card against the Highlanders. The running meters were massive from both teams here. It's good to see some dry weather footy compared to what we've been seeing in Australia. 648 metres to the Crusaders to 561 for the Highlanders. Lots of defenders beaten. The Crusaders 25, the Highlanders 32. 21 line breaks to Crusaders compared to 15 for the Highlanders. Those stats are massive. 16 offloads to the Crusaders, 12 to the Highlanders. When we roll on over to set piece, the Crusaders had 100% of their scrums, but it was only 2, mind you, whereas the Highlanders 100% with 4. And both of them were pretty solid, losing 1 line out apiece. Fantasy man of the match was Richie Mo'unga, well-deserved, 74 points. He had 10 carries, 94 metres, 1 try assist and 1 try, a tackle bust, 2 offloads, 3 line breaks, and 9 tackles. He was absolutely everywhere.
Can I say, including getting run the hell over by Shannon Frizzell?
Oh, yes, he did.
He still got up and he made a tackle straight after. It was amazing.
No, he got up and won the ball.
Yeah, sorry, that's right. Yeah.
Fantastic. For the Crusaders, Cody Taylor got 60, Will Jordan 54, Sevu Reece 54.
Oh, sorry, are you reading the Crusaders fantasy stats or just my fantasy team?
And George Bridge 49. For the Highlanders, Josh Ioane got 67, John Nareki 53, Dylan Hunt 50, Shannon Frizzell and Aaron Smith both got 49, and Ash Dixon got 45. Up until about 25 minutes, the Crusaders did, other than Mo'unga, look like they weren't going to score a billion points, and then all of a sudden they turned it on.
That's it. I think the stat from what they popped up during the game, I think it was the Crusaders scored 28% of their points in this Super Rugby Aotearoa competition in the last 20 minutes. Yeah. And that's just crazy. So they just step up another gear.
I think it was more than 28%, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was more.
Slightly more than a quarter, so it's not that good.
Why don't teams just keep a couple of their big guns on the bench against them and roll them all out with 25 minutes to go? They need a new tactic, because that's when they score, like you said, all their points. they need to target that 20 minutes. No New Zealand team seems to do it against them. They
Yeah,
blow
go
everyone out of
hard.
the water.
Yeah, go hard early, have that intensity, because the Highlanders, it was more about the intensity from the team rather than necessarily individual impacts, because guys like Mike Collins and things scoring tries, it was the team effort. So I agree, if you hold off some of your best guys and you bring them on the back end, that's probably your better shout to get that win.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, well, that concludes our entree. Very delicious. And let's move on to the main course.